My name's Marcus. I'm 34, work in IT, live in the Midwest.
Pretty normal guy.
Last month, my father had a heart attack. I dropped everything, moved back home to help, thinking we'd finally patch things up. 3 weeks later, he was recovering fine, but something darker was about to surface. Something that would make me realize I never actually knew him at all. And what I did about it would change everything.
So, here's the thing about my dad.
He was always controlling. Always. Growing up, it was his way or the highway. But I thought that was just parenting. Turns out it was something way worse. When he got sick, my mom called me crying. Dad was in the ICU, had massive blockages. Doctors said it was touch and go. I drove 14 hours straight. I was there when he woke up. I held his hand. I cried. I thought this was our moment to reset. The first week was fine. I helped him walk, brought him meals, made sure he took his medications. I took time off work, unpaid, because family comes first, right? My company wasn't happy about it. I told them my father was dying. They told me I had 1 week maximum. That's the reality of America. So I made it count. By week 2, Dad was getting stronger. Walking without assistance. Eating solid food. The doctors said he'd need another month of careful monitoring, but he was going to make it. That's when things shifted. He started making comments. Small ones at first. "You're sleeping a lot," he said one morning when I came down at 8. "I'm helping you recover," I replied. "Yeah, but you're eating my food. Running up my electric bill. You staying here's not free." I laughed it off. The man had just had open heart surgery. He wasn't thinking straight. But he was. By week 3, the comments became demands. "I need you to contribute to the household," he said one afternoon. "Dad, I took unpaid time off work to be here." "That's your problem, not mine. You want to stay here, you pay rent. $2,000 a month. That's fair market rate for this area." I stared at him. We sat in the living room. Mom was at work. It was just us. "Are you serious right now?" "Serious as a heart attack," he said, and I swear he smiled a little. $2,000. For staying in my childhood home while my 68-year-old father recovered from major surgery. I'd already spent $3,000 of my savings on co-pays and medical costs that insurance didn't cover. My job was hanging by a thread. I was eating ramen and skipping meals some days. "I can't do that," I said. "Then you need to leave." My mother knew nothing about this. When she came home, I waited until she was alone. She looked shocked, angry even.
"He's not well," she said.
"He says things. Don't take it seriously." But the next day, he brought it up again. And the day after that. He was serious. This wasn't delirium. This was greed. "I'm your son," I told him directly. "I'm here because you nearly died. And I appreciate that," he said, cold as ice. "Now pay up or get out." That's when I realized something. He wasn't my father in that moment. He was a man trying to exploit a situation. A man who'd raised me to take care of family, but only when it benefited him. The irony was suffocating. I called my boss, begged for my job back remotely. She was sympathetic, but couldn't guarantee anything until I returned. I had maybe 2 weeks of savings left if I paid Dad's extortion rent. 2 weeks to figure out if I was going to actually pay my father to take care of him, or if I was going to finally draw a line. By day 25, I'd made my decision. I wasn't paying him, but I wasn't leaving either. Not yet. Not until I figured out what he was really doing. Because something else was off. Really off. I started asking questions. Casual ones. "Hey, Dad, how much do you have saved for retirement?" He got defensive immediately, changed the subject, brought it back to rent. You paying today or what? That's when I realized the timing. He'd had this heart attack right after Mom mentioned they needed to dip into savings for home repairs. Right after she started talking about tightening the budget. Right when my older brother, the golden child who'd disappeared years ago, suddenly called asking for money. I looked into it. Quietly. I called my brother.
Hey man, I said.
How much did Dad give you? Long pause. 15 grand, he finally said. Why? For what? My business. Why are you asking? I felt the picture clicking into place. My father was sick, sure. But he was also mobilizing assets, probably worried about divorce or whatever else was coming, using his illness as cover. And his own son was just another financial transaction to him. That night, I confronted him. We were alone. Mom was asleep upstairs. You gave brother 15 grand, I said. His face went white. That's none of your business. It is when you're demanding rent from me while giving away family money. That's my business. I can do what I want with my money.
Exactly.
So can I. He stood up,
Moved toward me.
his chest still bandaged, his color rising in his face. You disrespectful little, he started, and then his hand came up. He slapped me, hard across the left side of my face. I saw stars, tasted blood. I didn't hit him back, not because I was afraid, but because I suddenly had absolute clarity about what needed to happen next. I wiped my mouth, walked to my room, packed a bag, didn't say goodbye. I drove to a hotel, the cheapest one I could find, paid cash. Then I called a lawyer. The next morning, I was sitting in an office, explaining everything to a family law attorney named Patricia. She was sharp, listened carefully, took notes. Your mother, she said. Is she aware of any of this financial movement?
No.
My dad's been hiding it. And she's still married to him? For now. Patricia leaned back. Here's what I think you should do. Nothing. Yet. Nothing. Your father committed assault. You have a witness. The mark on your face, your word. But here's the thing. You're not his dependent. You're not a minor. Technically, pressing charges would be personal and won't give you leverage in a larger situation. What larger situation? The one your mother might need help with. If your father's moving assets around without her knowledge during a marriage, that's a different animal. That's fraud. Potentially. Have you talked to your mother about the gift to your brother? Not yet. Do that first. Gauge her reaction. Then we talk strategy. I drove to my mom's work. She was surprised to see me. We went to her car, parked in an empty corner of the lot. He's hiding money, I told her. He gave brother 15 grand right after his heart attack. He's been demanding I pay him rent to stay with him while he recovers. And when I confronted him about it, he hit me. She didn't speak for a long time, just stared at the steering wheel. I suspected something, she finally said. Your father's been on his phone constantly, getting delivery packages I'm not supposed to know about. The bank statements come to an email I don't have access to anymore. I thought he was having an affair. He might be, but that money is from our account, our shared account, from 40 years of my work and his work together. He's been slowly moving it. She pulled out her phone, called her own lawyer, made an appointment for the next day. She didn't sound angry. She sounded like someone who'd finally found proof of something she'd been suspecting. I need to ask you something, she said to me. And I need you to be honest. Okay. Did you know about this? About him moving money?
Before now. No.
I just figured it out. She nodded. Okay, that's what I thought. Your father's been different lately. Secretive. I think he's been planning something. Maybe leaving. Maybe worse. I don't know yet, but I'm about to find out. We sat there for 20 minutes. She made phone calls, set up meetings, started documenting things mentally. I could see the gears turning. 40 years of marriage, and she was starting the process of taking inventory of her own life. When I got back to the hotel that night, I got a call from Dad. His voice was different.
Shaky.
Your mother knows, he said.
Yeah.
Because you're stealing from her. I'm not stealing. It's my money. It's community property, Dad. In every state in the union. You know what happens next? Lawyers. Depositions. Forensic accountants. Everything you've been hiding is about to come out. And your son's cooperation is about to be real valuable to Mom's side. He hung up. The next 2 weeks were chaos. My mother hired Patricia as her family law attorney. They began the formal discovery process. This is where they legally force your opponent to disclose financial records. In a community property state like ours, everything accumulated during marriage is split 50-50 unless there's evidence of fraud or misconduct. Dad's misconduct was about to become very documented. He'd moved approximately $75,000 to accounts his wife didn't know about. He'd made large gifts to my brother and his girlfriend. He'd even taken out a line of credit against the house without telling my mom. It was methodical. It was intentional. It was exactly what happens when someone's planning to leave and wants to protect their assets first. The court ordered a temporary injunction against further transfers, froze the hidden accounts. The case was going to go to trial, but my father suddenly got very nervous about what would be revealed in discovery. Here's where it got interesting. He called me again, apologized for hitting me, said he was stressed and not thinking straight, offered me $5,000 as a settlement for the assault, told me he'd pay my back tuition if I dropped the whole thing, and helped convince my mother to accept his settlement offer. I laughed. Actually laughed. Dad, I'm not negotiating with you. You tried to extort rent from me while hiding money from Mom. You hit me, and now you're trying to buy me off. Do you understand how that looks in court? I'm trying to avoid court, then tell the truth. Give Mom half of everything. Take your share of the house. And maybe, we don't pursue charges for the assault. But that's the only play here. He didn't like that, so he tried something else. He called my job, told them I was unstable and had made false accusations against him. Tried to get me fired. That was mistake number one. My company called me immediately, asked if I wanted to report it. I did. That became harassment and potentially defamation. He called my brother, told him to get the money back from my mom's lawyers or he'd disown him. My brother, who wasn't stupid, realized Dad was losing it and refused. That fractured their relationship instantly. He tried to contact my mom directly, offering her deals if she'd cancel the lawsuit. Each communication became evidence of his willingness to negotiate away marital assets, proving intent to defraud. By week 6, my father's lawyer came to his senses, told him the case was unwinnable. The evidence was overwhelming. The hidden accounts were documented. The gifts to my brother were documented. The assault on me was documented with medical records. My father's best option was to settle. The settlement offered him 45% of marital assets, less than the standard 50% because of his misconduct. My mother would get 55% plus the family home, which had been paid off years ago. My father got the marital investment accounts and a cash settlement. He had to repay the line of credit he'd taken against the house. He lost the case for custody of the family dog. That one actually made me smile. And the assault charge? I decided not to press it criminally. But it stayed in the family court record. It became part of the narrative. The judge, reading the case, remarked in her ruling that she was troubled by his behavior pattern. My father had to move out. He got an apartment across town. My brother stopped answering his calls. My mom kept the house. And I got something unexpected, and why Mother asked me to move back home. Not to take care of Dad, but to help with bills and keep her company while she processed everything. She also wanted me to help her hire someone to modify the house. New locks, security system, the works. She was done being vulnerable. I respected that. While all this was happening, I documented everything meticulously. Every call, every email, every conversation. Patricia, the lawyer, was impressed. She told me this kind of detail was why her case is won. But there was something else she wanted to do. Your father's behavior, the attempt to intimidate you at your workplace, the harassment calls, the assault, this pattern's like someone trying to maintain control through fear and manipulation. The fact that he's now isolated tells me he's escalating mentally. I'd recommend a restraining order. My mother agreed. We filed for a protective order. The hearing was straightforward. Presented the evidence. The judge approved it immediately. My father had to maintain 1,000 feet of distance from my mother and the house. He couldn't contact her except through his lawyer. When the papers were served, he lost it. Called me from an unknown number, violation of the protective order. Left messages about how unfair this was, how ungrateful we were, how he'd taken care of us our whole lives, and this was how we repaid him. Each message was recorded. Each one was another violation. I could have reported each one, built a case for criminal harassment, but I didn't. Not yet, because I was waiting for something. Dad, try to reach out to my brother one more time. Thought maybe he could manipulate him into helping reconcile things with Mom. My brother recorded the conversation. He told Dad that everything he'd done was selfish, that he'd lost the respect of his entire family, that maybe he should talk to a therapist instead of trying to rebuild bridges he'd burned. Dad's response was to threaten to take back the 15,000 gift, claiming it was a loan all along. My brother laughed and said, "Prove it." He told Dad that he'd already talked to the family lawyer about the conversation, and anything my father tried to do about the money would just create more legal problems. That's when my father's desperation turned into a different kind of anger. He contacted his own lawyer and decided to fight the settlement anyway. Appealed the judge's decision. Claimed he'd been coerced. Said I'd lied about the assault. Said my mother had manipulated him during his recovery. His lawyer actually dropped him because the case was indefensible, but he found another one willing to take it on. The appeals process took months. Court dates, depositions, expert witnesses. My mother's lawyer destroyed every argument he brought. The appellate judge upheld the original ruling. My father lost again. This time, he had to pay portions of my mother's legal fees, another $15,000 for her attorney costs. Now here's where things got interesting, and where I finally made a decision I'd been sitting on. My father reached out to me directly, not through lawyers. He called the main line at my work and somehow convinced the receptionist he was family with an emergency. I took the call. "I need help," he said. "With what?" "I'm drowning. I can't afford the settlement payments and the legal fees. I'm going to lose my apartment. I'm alone. Your mother's one. Can't you talk to her? Tell her to drop everything." I actually felt something. For a second, a flutter of the old guilt. The kid part of me that still wanted my dad to be okay. But then I remembered. I remembered the slap. I remembered the rent demand while he was recovering. I remembered the way he'd tried to manipulate me into helping him defraud my mother. I remembered him trying to get me fired to discredit me. No, I said. I won't, Marcus. You did this to yourself. You had every opportunity to be honest, to be a real father. Instead, you tried to control everything and everyone around you. You tried to buy me. You tried to scare me. You thought you could make one person bend to your will, then another, until you'd rebuilt your kingdom exactly the way you wanted it. But that's not how this works. I'm your father. You're a man who raised me to have integrity. And now you're being destroyed by your own lack of it. That's not my problem to fix. I hung up, but he called back. I didn't answer. He left voicemails. I saved them all, documented them. His lawyer sent letters asking me to mediate. I had Patricia respond that any further contact would be considered harassment. Within 3 months, my father had burned through his settlement money trying to fight appeals that had no chance of winning. He was behind on his apartment rent. He'd isolated himself completely from family. His only option at that point was to accept his situation and move forward. But instead, he tried one final thing. He broke the protective order, drove by the house, parked outside for 20 minutes. My mom was inside. She called the police. They came, took a report, and added it to his file. That's when his lawyer finally had a real conversation with him. Told him that criminal charges for violating the protective order could result in jail time. That his best move now was to accept his defeat and try to rebuild his life, but separately and quietly. My father moved out of state. Last I heard, he was in Arizona, living in a small apartment, working a retail job because his credit was destroyed. No contact with any of us. No messages. No calls. Nothing. It was over. What's wild is how quickly a person can lose everything when they're built on a foundation of control and entitlement. My father had money, family, a home. He had options. He could have handled his crisis like an adult, could have been honest, could have asked for help. Instead, he tried to manipulate his way out of it. And every manipulation made things worse. My mother's doing okay. Better than okay. She's rediscovered herself, found a therapist, started a book club, took a trip to Europe with her sister. She's happier than I've seen her in 20 years. The house is paid off. Her finances are secure. She's free. My brother and I talk more now. Turns out, we had a lot of the same experience with Dad growing up. Feeling controlled. Feeling used. We just processed it differently. He pushed back early and left. I tried to maintain the relationship until I couldn't anymore. We're rebuilding things now. Real things. Not transactional things. And me? I learned something about myself. I learned that I have limits. That I won't compromise my integrity to keep the peace with someone, even if that someone raised me. I learned that standing up to manipulation, really standing up, all the way to the end, is harder than anyone tells you it'll be, but also more necessary than you know. I also learned that revenge doesn't have to be violent or cruel. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge is just refusing to participate in someone else's game anymore. Refusing to bend. Refusing to negotiate with manipulators. Refusing to make yourself smaller to make them feel bigger. My father's consequence was self-inflicted. Every bad choice led to another bad choice. Every manipulation backfired. Every attempt to control people who cared about him pushed them further away. He didn't need me to do anything to him. He did it to himself. The only thing I did was stop protecting him from the consequences of his own actions. I let him face reality. And reality was not kind to him. So, if you're in a situation like mine, where someone close to you is trying to control you through guilt, through gifts, through threats, through manipulation, understand something. The person doing this to you has a choice to stop.
They choose not to.
That's on them.
Not you.
Standing firm against that kind of person isn't cruelty. It's kindness to yourself. And sometimes that's the most rebellious thing you can do. If you've been through something like this, subscribe because clearly our families are just as chaotic as reality TV, but with better legal documentation.